cohort of first to vibe coders ready before the ship a thing this July. If you have built something worth teaching, you have a session to give. Visit ZABALGames.com, that's ZABAL Games.com, and sign up. What is the ZABAL Games? 3 months, June, July, August. June is prep with ZAL teachers, vibe coding instructors run recorded sessions on tools, context, and the ecosystem. July is the open build-a-thon. Anyone with the vibe coding harness ships a build for the ZABAL ecosystem publicly. August is the finals, a cohort curated from July. Each builder paired with a ZAL mentor for the main event, winner reveal. GM, the ZABAL Game Season 1 is in
Okay, welcome everybody. We are back for our second ZABAL Games workshop on day 1. I got Joshua and Plat0x. How do you pronounce
Carlos. It's like Plato. Like Plato.
Plato.
Go
I got Carlos and Josh here with me. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Doing good, thank you, mate. Doing good.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think there's going to be a lot we can chat about with Bonfires. But Josh, if you want to give a quick intro on what Bonfires is, and then we can kick it over to Carlos to also give an intro, and then we can chat a little bit more, about how I learned about Bonfires and what we might be able to do here in the ZABAL Games.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much for inviting us, and thank you so much for your support and using the platform. Can't wait to see how ZABAL Games is going to unfold. So Bonfires is an emerging movement, an emerging product. Not to overstate it, but we're trying to do some really awesome things here. And essentially what Bonfire is a shared AI workspace. It's a place for you and a group of people to share an AI, an agent, a bunch of agents, and do cool things with those agents. And in the process of doing things with your agents, like research, playing games, interacting with each other, learning more, handling tasks for you. In the process of doing all of that, it creates what we call a shared memory. It's essentially a knowledge graph or a series of structured data that grows as you use it. So you and your group of people, you use this AI to do things to improve your life, to make things easier, to make money. And in the process, you're growing this shared memory. And then that memory becomes the core of your collective and actually becomes an asset that you can leverage. You can earn money from using it. You can share it with others. You can use other agents. You can sort of grow your community with it. And it all revolves around like collectively using that AI system to create this new memory. And so I'm sure you're going to find some great use cases with it with ZABAL Games. I know you've already been doing some great things with the Wave Wars. And I know that Carlos is probably going to blow you guys' minds with what's possible with the shared memory.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Thank you for giving that intro. I think it's really cool. I got the opportunity to experience Bonfires during the ETH Boulder presentation that you guys gave, and the ability to use it for the back end kind of for that conference. And that gave me a lot of ideas for what we could do with this. And I've been chatting with Carlos over the last couple of months, trying to find different ways that Bonfires fits into what we've been doing with the ZAO and everything that we're doing. And this 3-month build-a-thon seemed like the perfect place to start, leveraging the use case of a shared knowledge graph. Up till this point, it's always been myself, pushing data in, and I'm excited to now expand that to our community and all of the new people as well coming in who have questions. And this Bonfire bot may have better context than a traditional bot. So I don't know, Carlos, if you want to tap into that a little bit more, give a quick intro about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Carlos. I'm from Ecuador, and so I've always really like big data and like large systems and stuff like that. And I've been doing like crypto related stuff since 2020, give or take. And I've always been like super like enthused by like swarming and like what you can do when you put yourself together with other people and that kind of behaviors. And I've been like working with AI now for like 10 years, in different capacities. And kind of like as agents started coming out, like I was probably one of the first 0.1% of people who would like attempt vibe coding, like way back in, dude, like ETH Bogota was in like 2023. Like the very couple of like chat GPTs that came out, I was already like vibe coding hard. And what got me really excited is like the ability for these things to kind of coordinate people and kind of like get this shared brain kind of experience. And since around that time, we've been like workshopping with Josh in like we were talking about graphs like way before like anyone was talking about graphs, about context managing and like these like things that seemed kind of wild at the time. But as models have gotten better and like people are like putting more tokens through them, it's kind of gotten to a point where like it's needed, and like people already are starting to see like what's possible, you know. And that's kind of been like the main pursuit of Bonfires as a whole. um because to be honest, like i'm I mean, I really like what people mostly are doing nowadays, and like you mentioned it, like as a single player experience with AI, and kind of, I think a lot has been, okay, like let's try to do what we were doing before, but with AI, and like slap a AI sticker on top and kind of like call it a day. But I think there's like entirely new things that you can do. Like the Sabal games is a great example of like things that are now possible, and like the outcomes are different because without a system like this, like there's this, and I like to conceptualize as like a data loss problem. Like if you go to a conference, like, and that's what we're talking about in Boulder, like, okay, you go there, you meet these people, you have these conversations, but what percentage of all the data that you're like moving is lost or like siloed to like that one person who heard about it or whatever. um and by creating this new type of experience where it's like now there's a digital artifact that kind of grows like a plant over time, and kind of like the way it's going to end up like behaving depends a lot on the inputs, right? So it's kind of this new experience of like participating in co-creating something, and like not only like getting like being part of the story, you know. I think that's the core main thing that I feel people need to like be able to feel like you are part of something. And like also that's one of my big criticisms of like crypto, where it's like right now crypto is a very like if you have cash you can play kind of game, where it's like, oh, you have money, yeah, go get yield. And that's like the
Yeah,
extent of crypto. But like
it's a
for
pay to win. The free to play part of it isn't really there at all.
Yeah, and like there's been a lot of attempts at like monetizing yapping and stuff, but it ends up being these like frivolous exercise, and like there's no reward for like craftsmanship and for depth and for like stuff that people really care about, because we haven't really found a way to do that, you know. But like the idea is that with Bonfires you can like get a bunch of people who like a given particular topic, talk about it a bunch, and then say like, hey, let's make a hackathon around this, and kind of everyone can like use it as a shilling point, you know. Like besides like you or me or like a cult of personality, which is all we have in crypto these days.
Yeah, no, I think that's a super phenomenal way. One of the things I saw in Boulder was that exact thing that you said was the amount of data loss has always been something that's kind of interesting to me in a sense, less on the specific data loss side and more on like value lost, right? And that's always been an interesting thing to me as a person who's been working with on-chain musicians, where musicians as a whole put in a lot of time, effort, and energy and value into their art, and in the traditional music industry have to get by, have to give away part of their value to different people, right? That
Right.
are middlemen. And I think one of the really cool things about the value of Web3 and the promise was that you could remove all the middlemen, but all the people that came into on-chain music that I've seen from the 2021 bull run and beyond have mostly been doing the same practices from Web2 music
Right.
industry experiences. And now comes along vibe coding. And I think this is actually something that can change the game for independent artists, because it is something that they can hand off some energy to. And instead of paying an individual, you spend tokens on an AI agent. That's a whole different ballgame, because it's actually enabling you to learn about the thing that you're working on. Or if you don't want to, you can that completely off, right?
Right.
To an agent. But I think that promise of like, okay, like it's possible to do like everything on your own wasn't really around. But now that is manifesting to like, okay, now you just need to practice with the tools and get
Mhm.
better at it, right? And try these things out, because it is now potentially possible to run the rest of your company other than the one thing
Right.
that you want to do with agentic software, right?
Yeah, and I think it goes even deeper than that in terms of, because I honestly think that we as a society, like group of people, should be having like way more like revolutionary conversations in terms of like this changes the whole set of assumptions of how we build society. So like, and not even in a bad, it doesn't even have to be in a bad way, you know, like we've been existing in this like knowledge, like we went from goods, and like from goods, from selling goods and added value to, or like, you know, like the story of economics is like, first you sold raw goods like minerals and stuff, and then there's like the industrial revolution, and then there's added value. But then we were in this phase of like soft services as the main thing that you would sell, and especially like the main thing was like software as a service, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is like, I am of the people who think that software as a service is dead. Like there's no reason to like have like a multi-billion dollar SaaS company anymore, because
Yeah.
you can build your own like whatever, and like there's enough open source to build everything. But what I do think that's going to be the last scarce asset basically is curation, and like knowledge structuring is something that I don't think is going to go anywhere anytime soon, because that's the only thing that remains like unique and fractal. Because like you and me could go build a calendar app, and like it's going to end up being the pretty much the same calendar app. But if you and me go and curate music, it's going to be entirely unique based on my taste of music and your taste of music. So it depends on the market, like whose taste of music is more valuable, but both have some intrinsic value. And especially if you aggregate with other people who share your taste of music, you can create like these huge like value aggregations that are the service rather than the software. So like everyone who participates in the curation of these data structures is an owner, and therefore like earns some revenue on the use of that information. So that, I mean, that flips entirely what we're even doing out here, because like you don't no longer have to like make a startup to sell some software to get rich, but rather like start getting these huge curations of like, what's the biggest coherent swath of knowledge that I can sell to people. Oh, you're muted, I can't hear you anymore. Technical issues. If it doesn't get fixed, I'll break into a song.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, I was fixing my camera and I had to repick the mic. But I think that's a really cool way of looking at it. It's not something I had actually seen before. When you look at like basic utilities, anyone can make something that's similar. But then when you create something that's subjective and you take all of that together, that could be so different from person to person. But there's a group of individuals somewhere out there that take into that same preference, and that can be really interesting when you start to now aggregate similar types of taste together, right? And you
Hmm.
are able to niche down in this, let's say, folk taste or pop taste, right? And that's a really interesting concept that I hadn't been thinking about much before. But I think one of the super valuable things for the Zabal games here is the loss of information, and then the also ability to retrieve information.
Hmm.
At any point, someone could join during this 90 days, and I would like for them to be as caught up as they can be on current events.
Right.
This is a really powerful tool to help do that.
Yeah, and also even next year, like if you do so, like a yearly Zabal Games, like it's a thing that grows over time. So like one interesting thing is like instead of doing the same projects over and over, like next year people will know who won, like what kind of things happened, and then and one of the things that I would like to see in the future is this idea of if you think a hackathon nowadays, like they are like if you think about them in terms of cells, they are like single-celled organisms where like each hackathon project is their own unique thing, and then you suddenly have in a hackathon many people doing kind of the exact same project because that's the hot thing. Like in Denver, it was all X402 stuff, and like I mean that didn't necessarily change the world. You know, it didn't make that big of an impact. But what if there was coordination in between people who are participating in a hackathon, where like you have this data structure who is aware that okay, like there's people working on this, there's people working on that. let's I'm aware of like this data structure could also be aware of all the types and like data payloads and stuff. So by the end of the hackathon, what if 100% of the projects would be interoperable between each other? So instead of a hackathon creating 100 proof of concepts, you create one protocol that has 100 features, you know, and like and this is like, but this comes from a shared question of like everyone who's participating, it has to agree on like okay, what do we want to build as a whole, and how
Yeah.
are we, what do I want to build as a like a subsection of the thing.
No, that's cool. I like the idea of understanding who's working on what projects at the same time, right? So one of the things that I'm working on with the Sabal games is writing up the initial prompt that I'm going to give at the beginning of July. That's going to essentially be an explanation of the Zabal the ZAO ecosystem, which includes the Zabal, right? And all of these different projects that some have been started and completed, some of them have been started and are in the middle of process, some of them have been ideated about, right? Like there's all these projects in different states, right? So I made a dash projects page to work on and improve that, and I think that can be a really powerful thing to what you were saying there, where it's a lot of people working on this one ecosystem and set of
Hmm.
problems where no two people are doing the same thing. If they are, they're working together and using those
Right.
brain powers together, right? And I think the ability to do that asynchronously can come from a tool like Bonfires.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the vision long term of like, and it takes a lot of like stakeholders to want to do that, and we kind of discussed kind of like the early stages of that because the idea is that and I think that in the future everyone's going to have their own agent. Like I'm running my own like agent right now on the side, like, and basically everyone's going to have some sort of agent doing something for them at some point. And the idea with bonfires, and I was talking about this earlier, is like seeing bonfires as like an orchestrator that can like you know that what you're saying in that git commit or in that like message you're sending is being indexed in somewhere that is being recorded and stuff, so that you're more willing to share. Because I think that's one big issue with, and especially now that we're all producing more data, uh, the issue is like if no one's reading this data, like what good is it to like do very detailed documentation and stuff? You know, and there's a lot of lost like double work more than anything.
Yeah, for sure. So this currently is locked. So we have a Telegram. If anyone is interested in joining and participating and using the bonfires, shoot me a DM. We'll add you up to the Telegram and you can prompt and ask it questions. But I'm going to ask it here. What do you know about the Zabal games? And you can essentially be able to query it here. You can actually see a little bit of this recent query of the Zabal games, what it learned. So this is a lot of similar stuff that's on the website here where we can quickly go through it. But it's currently working on ingesting the current state of the knowledge graph. But I think there's a lot of powerful things we can do here, and I'm excited to get other. We have 2 agents right now connected to it. I'm excited to get other people's read agents on board to watch this, so that maybe when they get something when someone pushes something interesting to it, they immediately are getting notified and
Mhm.
pinged if it's related to them. So let's say 2 people are working on a project together, and one is in one time zone and the other is halfway across the world.
Right.
The ability for me to say, okay, in this Git commit at the end of my project, these document it well so that my teammate can continue off
Mhm.
here. And you essentially send that, and the ability for their AI to see that and then read all those files and pre-prepare that, for that individual before they wake up, could be a powerful way of working together, right? And it wasn't ever available to be so clean, asynchronous with zero friction. And I think that's one of the things you guys have solved, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it's actually like a it's a super complex problem. And there's like so many domains and stuff that you can like pull and tune. The cool thing that we're as a sneak we talked about this earlier. I've been working a lot in because as you may know, if everyone's doing this, at some point it becomes like a lot of data to parse, right? And I think that's one of the conversations that's coming up to the forefront a lot, is taking shape a lot more in the recent months. Um, but the cost of LLMs is something that people are going to have to reckon with. And right now we're in a very like we're learning that it's expensive right now. Like Uber spent all their budget for a year in tokens in 4 months and stuff. And once you get into the problem, it's like, okay, I have too big of a context, I need to summarize it, but
Mhm.
summarization is expensive as well. And if you want to do like the most of the state of the art of this kind of thing is just throwing an LLM at it and having it extract a graph, which is what we do right now, basically. But what I've been exploring is this idea of using like language and grammar to parse it on a natural way, so that like the idea is that we're going to be able to do this indexing process basically for free, which allows you to like store a lot more information, because it then becomes a problem about like the compute time and the storage, but not about the LLM expense, which is like burning fuel these days.
Yeah, it's a
So
primary problem in AI coding, right? Is token
yeah,
usage.
yeah, and like when you get to harder problems like judging a hackathon with 1,000 applicants, like the amount of tokens that you spend just for
Yeah.
that one thing, it ends up being thousands and thousands of dollars. So like any way that you can like compress that is a huge saving. So like that's kind of like what we're working on at Bonfires right now, how to make that process kind of like seamless and something that you can build on with. So and that's also what I'm excited to talk about in some other um days, about like the kinds of apps that you can do with memory systems, because like it kind of changes the much like with the economics of it, it also changes the design surface of the app. And like like the mold book example is very good in terms of like what you really want to build is a server, and then the agentic interaction is going to be mostly like through those interfaces. So
Mhm.
like the role of the front end changes, because now it's not the primary interaction place, but rather maybe somewhere you go to find more information, or you know and even the way that you make an interface changes. So like there's a lot of cool levers, and I think it's a very fruitful conversation to have these days, because now
Yeah.
everyone can code. So like
Yeah, giving the context and ability to more people is always super helpful. So Thank you, Carlos. I think that was an awesome first session. We definitely will have to dive deeper into the Zabal bonfire, but then also what else is capable here. Maybe we'll do a build of something on top of the bonfire during a session, and that could be cool to watch your workflow of how you use your tools, because I think
Yeah,
that can always be super powerful.
that'd be awesome. Like I'm up for a challenge. I need to think up of something. Maybe we can make
Exactly.
a little magic eights of all ball.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, and that it'll tell you a project to work on.
Right, right.
Perfect. Yeah. No, one of the ideas I've also had is potentially a bot where, because the logo is insert coin, putting, but you can kind of choose between 1 and 100 million, a billion, whatever, however many tokens you want to put in, and it can give you something based on that, whether it's a additional piece of information, whether we put a bunch of NFTs with different rarities in a pool, and it just picks from that. I think
We
there could be some cool things that we could
Yeah,
do.
I think it could be cool to make like a bounty system as well. So like if people have
For sure.
coins, they can use them to like bounty. Like maybe you're making a project and you want someone to make an extra feature, but
I
you don't want
like
this,
that.
you know?
Yes. Okay, cool. So you could put up an open bound. Yeah, honestly, you could even do it with Poid, which is really cool, which is one of the
Hmm.
tools we're using. So yeah, I think a lot of awesome ideas. I'm excited to brainstorm it more. Thank you so much, Carlos. Do you want to share where people can find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Plat0x underscore atox underscore eth. And you can find us in bonfires.ai. We are racing, so if you want to get rich, like skull, it's a good opportunity. Uh, so yeah, thanks for having me, and let's have another one soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Carlos. Have a good one, everyone who
All
joined
right.
in and is listening.